Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
10 ways to celebrate. Probably not 10. I'm not sure I can come up with 10. We got some ideas in Discord that I really liked. One of them for this video was 10 ways to celebrate versus not celebrate. I know, Bob, this is something I am notoriously bad at. I don't celebrate enough. That's been a big focus for me over the past 5 to 6 years, is getting better at that for me and my teams.
Well, it depends on the culture, right? And I'm not using that as an excuse, but I think celebration has to be targeted. So maybe it's not the way, but as an entry discussion, it would be sense. I'm big on the sense and respond sort of metaphor lately. So sense the landscape. So you can over celebrate.
Oh yeah,
right, for the culture, or inappropriately celebrate.
Well, that's an interesting point. I think what could be perceived as over celebration in one culture might actually be appropriate.
But that's the sense and respond.
Right.
So don't go in with your, wear the sumo suit.
Yeah.
And challenge everyone. Oh, this is fun. I'm trying to celebrate by having fun. And I bought my sumo suit and I bring it in and I challenge everyone to a sumo sort of contest. Right?
Yeah.
And that might be inappropriate for some contexts. That's right.
I agree, but I think there's times where you're working to change the culture that you might have to be a little over the top.
All right, so I'm in
for Japan. What the norm is there.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
But we're in Japan,
okay,
or something.
Yeah.
And it's culturally inappropriate to make fun.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But so I'm just saying. So I think context matters.
Yes.
I once celebrated a person. The thing that resonates with me is at EMC. I'll never forget this. I appreciated someone in front of a crowd.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I celebrated her in front of a crowd, like a big crowd, actually.
Yeah.
And she pulled me aside afterwards and almost ripped me a new one and threatened to quit if I ever did that again to her. And it's not her reaction. It was my oh shit discovery moment of, what I think is going to be fun or celebratory or appreciative isn't. I have to vet it. I have to vet it with individuals or with the culture is all I'm getting at.
Two things. I agree. You have to understand the individual, understand the culture. That was another big learning for me, is just like you, I wanted to celebrate, and the way I celebrate is likely very different than the way the other 80 people in my team would celebrate. So having awareness of that, digging into that, and understanding that. But I too have had that situation where I celebrated someone's behavior in front of the whole crew, and they came and they talked to me. They didn't rip me a new one, but they were like, hey, can you please not do that again?
Oh, I remember this story. And
and I pushed back.
And you pushed back because you were trying to make a cultural change.
Yes.
So you were intentionally going over the top a little bit, or extending. Yeah. Okay.
But awareness, we talk about awareness. He was an Eagle Scout, so he felt the responsibility. Like Eagle Scouts, very responsible, very thoughtful, very I will do what's right. So I was able to have a conversation with him and explain why I'm doing this. And I asked him, I would like to do this more because you're amazing and you're going to be likely one of the ones that I shine a light on. And I'm asking you if that's okay because I have this greater purpose.
Yep.
And he was able to get past his discomfort and say, for the greater good, I'll do that. But again, I knew who he was. I knew how he was wired. And I had a feeling that if he understood that larger picture, he would say, okay.
So I think as a leader, there's disruptive celebration. And sometimes I remember years ago, we were stressing out at Bell and Howell. I was there as a leader, and people were starting to fight and argue with each other. And it was the stress. We were doing a project. It had a fixed date. And there was a lot of stress. And I remember having this epiphany of going out to Toys R Us at the time. And out of pocket, I spent probably $300 on Nerf weapons. And I brought all these Nerf weapons back and I sprinkled them around. and I was lucky in that it actually worked.
Yeah.
People grabbed the Nerf. We were on the first floor, and we had trees outside. So everyone not only took the Nerf weapons, but they went outside and started shooting the crap out of each other. And then we created an armory, so whenever the stress was too high, you could go and grab a Nerf gun, and you could shoot each other or something. And it sort of took off. Now I didn't know if that would work, right? That had worked previously for me. But I think as a leader, there are times where we should go over the top.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. I did that same thing once, and it worked. But it was a partnership between myself and the CEO, because we talked about we needed a cultural change.
Yeah.
And he's like, what if we did this? So we did the same thing, and we gifted people with weapons. And then a year later, it was a dangerous place.
Yeah.
Some of our engineers had invested, and they had modified some of their Nerf
I remember
weapons.
back then there were like Nerf bows and arrows actually, and they were like these crossbow thingies, and people bought them. Yeah.
So,
So disruption. So you're taking a risk.
Yeah.
You're considering the context and the status quo that you might stretch.
yeah.
But you're at least sensing and responding.
Yeah, and where I struggle the most is small celebrations.
I suck at that as well. I've gotten much better. You know what? Let's not even say that. Let's put this on the table. The thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Josh.
yeah,
The high five.
yeah,
The lost art of the freaking high five. Or if you're not I'm not a sports person, but the fist bump.
or in COVID,
Or
the elbow.
The elbow bump
Yeah.
or something. But I think there is the lost art of the small celebration.
Yeah, where I've seen it be very effective, and there's some Scrum Masters that I've worked with that are very good at this, is there's a ton of little wins that the team is just like, yep, we did that. And I've seen some really great Scrum Masters that they're like, hey, wait, like, hold on. Like, let's not drive past that.
Correct.
We just did a thing we've never done before. Like, let's take a moment and realize, A, that just happened, and B, let's like pat ourselves on the back. And so many teams, because you're in this sprint mentality,
Yep.
right? Again, if you go back to the word of what they're doing, they're sprinting. So there's maybe one beat to take a breath. So the really good leaders, the really good Scrum Masters can see the things that we all should be seeing,
And they recognize it.
and
the
point
small
that out,
things.
and just hit the pause button.
Yeah, I agree with you. Or if you've forgotten it and you can't be perfect in detecting, then they pause every once in a while and look back over their shoulder.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't pause like on a monthly basis. They might pause at the end of a week and look back. Oh,
Right.
you know what? We did something really cool on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back around.
Yep.
I'm going to throw out something else for celebration. And it goes back to, I once, where was I working at? Oh, it was iContact. And I had this epiphany. We were on a quarterly release tempo. And I wanted everyone, we were going to celebrate a release because we kicked ass in our releases. We really did. And I decided as a leader, we're going to go bowling.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it was one of these, the bowling places that have upper scale food and a bar.
Yes, yeah.
And so it wasn't a bowling alley. It was one of those upscale bowling places. And I remember, and so, signed people up for bowling, got real excited about it, sent around name list, all of that. We're going to go bowl. We're going to celebrate. And I've decided bowling is the fun thing for everyone. And then I had this epiphany, and it wasn't anyone was complaining, but someone just like in the hallway, they were like, I have a couple young kids at home. It's going to be really hard for me I can't come, right? My situation is this. And I started realizing that I was picking the fun instead of funding the fun, right? So I was deciding what the fun was. And from that day to now, I've tried to change and say, what could I do, right? What would you all like to do? And I started giving them money, right? I started giving the teams because it costs money to go bowling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I had 10K, it's like, I give $750 to each team. It's like, go decide what's fun for you.
Yep.
So what I'm telling you to do is to celebrate, but I'm not dictating what is fun for you.
Yes. What I've heard that referred to as, because I've made that same mistake, is forced fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of like,
And
hey,
your heart's and no, I'm not picking. my heart was pure.
Yeah,
And
same.
and anyone who's doing that, but it's not for. It's like self-selection.
And you may have to start with forced fun because I have learned that lesson. Then in subsequent companies I've been in where I felt the need for something like that to happen, I tried to go, hey, what do you guys want to do? And many of the folks had never been in a company where that was a thing that you do. So they just kind of locked up.
So there was a gap.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so there's times where maybe you don't want to do that, but the first time you might have to be that person and say, yep, okay, we're going to go do this. And not everybody might like it.
So I'm going to yes, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm going to challenge it.
Ooh.
I actually think if you drop the money and pivot, they'll figure it out. There might be a little pause in the group. Like they're not going to respond right away. You're right. There's a speed bump. But if I trust me, if you give it, let's say you give a team $1,000 quarterly.
Yeah.
And
You're
say,
right.
here, figure it out.
Okay.
And you just pivot as a leader. You drop a little bag of coin on the table. I guarantee you that team is going to figure something out.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to think that it's a trick initially, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Does he want us to work the weekend or whatever?
Yeah.
But they'll figure it out. They may not know. But there is that pause. It's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Right. That's never happened to me before.
Okay. Cool. Well, we didn't keep track. I didn't count to 10.
I think we covered, though. We had these like meta principles.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's it's like let the teams back to the drop the coin on the table. Mm-hmm. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
So what are things I've seen teams do? I've seen them have movie passes for each other. I've seen them pass around funding so they could pay for babysitters for their kids so they could have a night out with their significant other. Just do so individual things.
Yeah.
And I've seen teams that like went bowling, not because Bob said it, or they went and played pool, or they bought a nice dinner for themselves, or they do all kinds of things, whatever it takes for the team.
Yeah.
So that's greater than 10. It's like, so again, there's the sense and respond. Mm-hmm. Don't force, but stretch at times as leaders. Don't be afraid to be disruptive.
Yeah.
But then I think there's this another meta is just fund it and let teams decide.
Man, I tell you what. Well, listen, if you made it this far, you got to do us a solid, and you got to
what the hell does that
you've got to what
do us a solid?
I feel like that's like from your era.
I feel like I'm on the block in New York City.
Yeah, from
like a pimp or something. You gotta do me a solid or something.
How do we end up there? I'm just trying to get people to support us.
All right,
by clicking the like
button. I'm sorry,
button.
everyone. I'm sorry, Josh.
Okay.
All right, everyone, you got to do us a solid, Josh.
I had a good flow, a good segue, and then
someone said that to me recently, and I'm like, what the hell was that?
Okay, so
I'm scarred.
Click the like button, the little thumbs up thing down there, then subscribe, because if you're watching this and you made it this far, you kind of like the content.
Come on. Throw us a bone.
Jeez, yeah, we're going to end with that. So, from
beautiful downtown Fuquay Varina, North Carolina, I'm Bob Galen.
And I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all. How do we start the videos?
Oh, my gosh.
You knew I was going to ask that.
I know. We're just going to dive in.
Okay. I'll follow you lead. Dancing. We're dancing.
Oh, we're dancing?
And you lead.
Oh.
You lead and I'll follow.
Until we start talking, then you'll do all the talking?
No. See? Oh. Did you capture that? Did y'all?
Okay, fine. Again, because I'm trying to parse how sarcastic was that last comment.
What?
That's the ultimate.
See, I actually think you have a sarcastic lens that auto-activates. And I just bring my genuine self to the table. Showing vulnerability, I might add.
Yes, your genuine self has a nice thread of sarcasm.
A tinge. I'm like a hound or something where there's raw meat in front of me sometimes. I know I'm sure I look that way. It's like, because I'm usually like sleepy or sort of, I'm not, going along for the flow, but then it's like, some raw meat in there. Yeah.
I can punch Josh right in the nose.
Let's go for it. Discord sounds very dysfunctional. It sounds.
What are you talking about?
It sounds confrontational.
That's because you're old.